Today I'm going to be discussing the Voynich Manuscript, which is certainly one of the most interesting and has been called the most mysterious manuscript in the world. First of all, the manuscript itself is written in a language of which no other example is known to exist. It is an alphabetic script, but of an alphabet variously reckoned to have from 19 to 28 letters, none of which bearing any relationship to any English or European letter system. The manuscript is small, 7 by 10 inches, but thick, nearly 170 pages, closely written in a free-running hand, copiously illustrated with bizarre line drawings that have been watercolored, drawings of plants, drawings of little naked ladies appearing to take showers in a strange system of plumbing, which has been variously identified as organs of the body or a primitive set of fountains, and astrological drawings, or what have been interpreted as astrological drawings. The known facts of the manuscript are few. They are that it appears in 1586 at the court of Rudolf II of Bavaria, who was one of the most eccentric European monarchs of that or any other period. He was fascinated by games and codes and music. He was typical of the occult-oriented Protestant intellectual of this period. Anyway, to his court and among his courtiers came an unknown person who sold this manuscript to the king for 300 gold ducats, which translated into modern monetary units is about $14,000, which is an astonishing amount of money to have been paid for a manuscript at that time, and immediately signals that the emperor must have been highly impressed by this object if he was willing to put out that kind of money for it. Accompanying the manuscript is a letter which states that it is a manuscript of the Englishman Roger Bacon, who flourished in the 13th century and who was a noted pre-Copernican astronomer. Now, at that time in Prague, which was where the court of the emperor was being held, the reputation of Roger Bacon was at a great height. The court was a hotbed of alchemy, and among all these alchemists, the reputation of the English monk Roger Bacon was held very high. This is because 2 years previously, the sale of the Voynich Manuscript to the emperor being dated to 1586, John Dee and Edward Kelly are probably, if they were not I certainly think they were the people who sold the emperor the Voynich Manuscript because of circumstantial evidence surrounding their interest in subjects similar to those being covered by the manuscript. And the Voynich Manuscript was accompanied by this letter stating that it was a Bacon manuscript. And the best astrologers and cryptographers in this court looked at it and could make nothing out of it. And it, and along with a great deal of other weird collections and material that Rudolf had gathered together from all over the world, was passed to various people at his death. And this book, because it contained botanical illustrations, passed to his botanist, who was a man named Marcisi. And he had it for 20 years. Then it passed to an unnamed party who had it for 20 years, and by this time we're up to the 1620s. And then it passed to Athanasius Kircher, who was one of the great polymaths of the mid-17th century. He was a Catholic intellectual, an alchemist, a person who experimented with artificial languages. And before he obtained the Voynich Manuscript, we know of letters of his to various people asking about it. And in fact, he was sent small portions of it reproduced that he struggled over. But once he actually had the manuscript in his possession, his diaries are silent about it. And he says nothing, even though 5 years after he acquired it, he published a book called A Universal Study of Artificial Languages that nowhere mentions the Voynich Manuscript. And he decided to become a Jesuit in about 1660 and had to give away all of his worldly goods. So he gave his library to this Jesuit seminary south of Rome, and in among his books was the Voynich Manuscript, and it sat on a shelf in the seminary from 1660, 1760, 1860, 1960, 280 years. Till Alfred Voynich, a New York book dealer, bought the entire library on a trip to Europe in 1912. And when he got it all back to New York and sorted through it, among all this easily catalogued late Renaissance Italian theological material was this peculiar book, more than peculiar, totally anomalous book. And it's very strange because the store of images, even as late as the period when we first hear of the Voynich Manuscript in the 1580s, the store of images in the European mind was very limited. For instance, in speaking of the biological sections of the Voynich Manuscript, here you get 120 drawings of plants, and yet there were only 10 or 15 herbals in circulation among the educated people of Europe of that time, and none of the Voynich images can be directly traced to any of these previously printed or circulated manuscripts. Likewise, the script itself, it has no antecedents and it spawned no imitators. I think that what fascinated me about the Voynich Manuscript is above and beyond the historical puzzle, above and beyond how interesting it would be to know what it actually says, and someone went to such great effort to hide what it says, is just the idea of an unreadable book is a kind of Borgesian concept that is attractive. There must be somewhere an unreadable book, and perhaps this is it. And the idea that the world is information, and the way by which we have cognizance of the world is by ordering all the information we come upon through relation to information that we already have accumulated. And an unreadable book in a non-English script with no dictionary attached is very puzzling, because we are like linguistic oysters. We secrete around it, we insist it into our metaphysic, but we don't know what it says, which always carries with it the possibility that it says something which would unhinge our conceptions of things, or that its real message is its unsayability. It simply is, it points to the otherness of the nature of information. It's what's called then a limit text. The Voynich Manuscript is the limit text of Western occultism. No one can read it. It is truly an occult book.
Definitely a literal.
It is like a literalizing of the mythical book in H.P. Lovecraft's work, which is the Necronomicon, the writings of the mad Arab Al-Hazrad. Perhaps the Voynich Manuscript is actually a manuscript that is not encrypted at all, but is simply a book in a non-human language, and therefore there is no Rosetta Stone to it. It is just utterly beyond the pale, as they say in Ireland.
Take it easy, dude. But take it.